What's up, guys? I'm Alex.
I'm Jason. We're the Table Monkeys, and we are here with a video to talk about PRs. PRs can be achieved many different ways. You can hit rep PRs, you can hit 1 rep maxes. In the arm wrestling community, mostly what we're seeing as of late has been a lot of 1 RMs. So we want to talk about those specifically, which really in like a 5 rep max, your 5th rep is basically a 1 rep, like a 1 RM, right?
Yeah,
so,
but 1 RMs get the views, they get the clicks, so that's what gets posted online. So whether or not that's what everyone's doing all the time, that's at least what gets posted and seen by the public.
Yeah, and that whole motivation right there, the social media motivation, I think is a lot of what is leading to some of the bad and ugly, which if you saw the title of this video, the good, bad, and the ugly. When it comes to PRs, and that's what we want to talk about is why the quality of the lift matters, what the objective is of a PR or of a 1 RM in general, and why we think that that keeping them clean is really important if your goal is to actually progress and not just think that you're progressing.
Exactly, and this all stems from the reason for training in general. When we're as arm wrestlers, the reason we train is to get better at arm wrestling.
Yeah.
So our training needs to translate to the table.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously we do want to get stronger in certain lifts, certain specific lifts that translate, but we have to make sure that the quality is there so we can make sure that it's translating.
Exactly. If you're training something and it's not going to translate to the table, then you're just kind of wasting your time with what you're training, right? And we come from a very conventional lifting background, so we think about powerlifting and like Olympic lifting and that kind of stuff a lot. And one of the things that's interesting about arm wrestling is that as much as you're training these 1 RM lifts and you're thinking about it like it's a max effort, one-time pulling through somebody, it's more like a martial art, it's more like a move. So there's a lot of components to that move. So it's more like a clean and jerk or a snatch, where if you're training for those lifts, you're gonna do a lot of different lifts to compile them to make that lift work. And same thing, like with those, if some of those breakdowns that you're doing you're not doing them correctly, they're not gonna translate to that final movement that you're trying to do. So like Alex said, with PRs, or just training in general, the point is to translate it to the table. And since arm wrestling is what we're training for, you want to get these lifts clean so they translate.
Exactly. And then the point of PRs are to track progress. Of course, you want to make sure that you're getting stronger, so hopefully you're getting better on the table.
Yeah.
And then to improve performance, which is that getting better at the table point.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole tracking progress again comes back to that quality thing. If the quality of the lift is no good, then you're not really tracking progress. You see the weights going up, so the quantity's going up, but if the quality's not there for that lift, then it's not like you haven't actually made any progress. So it can be like a false representation of, you thought you're stronger because you thought you lifted 10 more kg, but the lift 10 kgs ago was clean as fuck, and the lift now looks sloppy as shit. You haven't really improved, right?
Exactly, and you can get away with a lot of bad technique with a lot of the arm wrestling lifts that we see. For example, the simple Devon pronation lift, where you're doing it off the floor, you're starting with your fist in neutral, even slightly pronated, and then you're trying to lift it off the ground and maintain your pronation.
Yeah.
Well, you can lift it off the ground, completely lose your pronation, and call that a good lift, but we all know that that's not a good lift, and your pronation is completely gone, and you're not training it at all.
One of 71 kilos with form was pretty good. With form was pretty good. I just did the Devon Larratt style lift, right?
Show us.
one of the main things that you want to figure out with all the lifts, regardless, and these can be lifts that you think of on your own, or lifts that you've seen people do, is what is the fail point? And that's the point that is the objective of bringing it to translate to the table. If I'm trying to train pronation to be able to maintain it or pull through someone with it on the table, well, I'm not pulling through anybody with pronation if my hand looks like this, right? Yeah. And same thing with rise. If my objective is to train being able to punch up through someone's fingers and rise up through their hand, well, this is not training rise, you know what I mean? So if I get the weight to move, but my riser's completely dumped, it doesn't matter that the lift looks like I'm doing riser. I'm not training my riser, my riser's not actually going to be getting stronger from that lift, right?
So you can't track progress with that because the lift was not clean, and then it's not improving your performance because that's not going to translate to the table.
Yeah.
And then there's associated risks with performing lifts of quality like that, is that you could be just waiting for an injury to happen.
Yeah, and then the other thing that you have to watch is training the lift with the pronation lift. The other one you'll see a lot is people training it where their arm is really vertical, you know, and yeah, there's some pronation, there's still pronation involved there, so you could have that same thing happen where you're also calling it a lift when your thumb starts to turn over, but this angle is not really going to translate to the table as effectively as the whole 90-degree angle, because that, again, the fail point in your elbow is when your elbow starts to open up. That's the fail point on the table. When you start to lose on the table is when your arm opens up. So you want to train that angle and not allow it to open up, but you need the force to be as accurate as possible to that fail point, right? Exactly. In your hand. And that would be similar to translating into regular lifts again. It'd be like squatting halfway. If you're doing a half squat, sure, the weight starts to go up and you can half squat a lot more than you can actually deep squat. But when you go to competition, guess what? You're gonna red light all the time. You're never gonna get a clean lift. So there's no point in training it that way. You need to train what is going to be tested when you actually get to the table. And in arm wrestling, it's these specific angles. Yes. And as soon as they open up just a little bit, there's a big difference between being here and being here. You know what I mean? That is a completely different position and situation for me in a match.
Yeah, and to the uninitiated, someone who doesn't arm wrestle, someone who watches Ryan Bowen videos, they're probably not going to understand the minutia of what goes on in the table, in the setup, in those split seconds after the go, where all those millimeters matter. Right? Yeah. You start with a straight wrist, with your arm in neutral, and with your arm mostly at 90 degrees. So if you're not maintaining riser or pronation during these lifts, it's not going to translate to the most important part of the game, which is right in the center.
Yeah, and also you reach with a lot of lifts, especially these arm wrestling lifts, you'll reach a sticking point where things start to seize up and lock up, and then you're able to move the weight. And again, if that's in a bad position, that's the position you're going to find in the table and think you're strong in. And that may work for a certain amount of time, which again, comparing it to regular lifting, if you're a rounded back or your hips shoot up when you squat, that'll work for a while, but eventually you'll either get injured or you'll reach a plateau where you just can't get any stronger. And it's not that you can't get stronger, it's that your inefficient form is restricting you from progressing the lift anymore.
Exactly.
Right?
So bottom line, we're worried about quality and quantity. Quality, of course, because we want to make sure that we're progressing, but quality has to be the most important thing because that's the way we know that it's translating to the table.
Yeah, exactly. So basically leave your ego at the door, make sure that these lifts are looking clean before you progress them. You should basically be able to, you don't want to be able to do the lift with ease where you could do it for a bunch of reps, but you should be able to get what you think maybe a couple reps or hold it for a little bit before you start to progress that weight. And then when you do progress the weight, the next weight you choose shouldn't be so heavy that you start with a really ugly looking lift and then over time get it clean. That's not how you want it, right? And I don't want to throw Ryan too much under the bus, but I think that lift where he was he wanted to get to 60 kg or something, where he was holding it and doing it through pronation this way, and he started with a certain weight that he just kept trying to lift until he got it, kind of thing. That's not how you achieve a PR. You don't achieve a PR by attempting the same weight over and over and over, not even being close to it at the beginning and then eventually getting it. If you want to progress, that quality of the lift is the most important part of getting the quantity to go up effectively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we hope you got some value out of this video. Like, comment, subscribe,
all those things,
and monkeys out.
Peace.